Hello, everyone. Good afternoon and a warm welcome to another episode of our webinar series. My name is Sasanka, and it's a pleasure to have you with us today. Thank you so much for taking the time to join with us, and we truly appreciate it. Without further ado, today's discussion is centered around the crucial theme reimagining back office excellence for telcos. So we'll be exploring how leading telcos are driving transformation across finance, HR, and procurement, from overcoming operational bottlenecks to harnessing automation and process excellence for efficiency. So we are thrilled to have two distinguished speakers who bring a wealth of experience and real world insights to this topic. So before I introduce them, so here's a quick look at today's agenda. The session will be running for about 40 minutes, featuring two sub sessions, followed by a Q&A session and a discussion. So please feel free to drop your questions in the chat box at any time. So I'll be taking them up once both presentations are completed. So now I'm delighted to introduce our first speaker, Mr. Wong, CFO of Silicon Box, joining us from Singapore. Hongshu is also the former group CFO of Dialog Asiata Sri Lanka, and Hongshu brings extensive expertise in finance, transformation, governance, and digital excellence within the telecom sector. Thank you so much, Hongshu, for joining with us. It's an honor to have you with us here today. And the next speaker, I'm pleased to introduce Mr. Jehan Perinpanayagam, the CEO of Infomate Private Limited and Senior Vice President of the John Hills Holdings. Jehan is a pioneer in Sri Lanka's BPM industry with over 2 decades of leadership experience. He has also served as the former chair of ACCA Sri Lanka and SLASCOM, and also he is also the immediate past president of Sri Lankan Nordic Business Council. With that, let's dive right in. Hongshu, right over to your first session. Thank you.
Thank you, Sapanta. Thank you, Jehan, for having me. Okay. So I think on a broader context in today's world, we are seeing a lot more discussions and also investments and effort around how the operations in the finance is at minimum utilizing technologies, whether it's in the form of automations, systems, and a lot of thinking or discussion around pushing it to AI related to help in the finance operations area. In the past, I think it's just before a few years back, a lot of discussion more towards around automations and robotic process or automations type of things. But with the advent of AI and the infiltrations of those adoptions, it gets more to the discussion on how human AI collaborations would want to play a role within the finance world. I think as far as what I'm aware of, the world where AI completely take over finance piece of work would be quite likely still some distance away. But then it already generates a lot of anxiety amongst the finance community on how it will look like down the road. I think I will say a few key themes of how I would see that unfold. Like it or not, the pursuit of standardization, eliminations, efficiencies drive has already been long started. And as we evolve through past 2 decades of finance journey, we all notice that there has been always a continuous pursuit how we really reach to the stage where we call simpler finance. It is really not just about involving lesser manual work, but it's also a pushing of higher quality outcome in two folds. One is obviously the work deliverables. The other case is really about how to utilize the brain within the finance community into helping the companies to deliver better decision makings, faster actions, preempt responses, having early warning signals, and so on and so forth. Where in the past, all those brains and efforts are being bogged down into handling transactions. And this is not new story. I just want to keep emphasizing that. It's just a different way of doing it. Then it comes into a model where we heard a lot about outsourcing, offshoring, and so on and so forth. Be mindful of no matter what it is being called, it's just a organizing effort or reorganizing efforts to get the expertise. And that expertise can be human, can be an organizations, can be technology, usually is all of the above, where an organizations like Infomate is really spending all their time in doing the best approach in helping organizations achieving that outcome. But it can be just about whether it's in-source or outsource. The pursuit of utilizing the right process design, the right kind of technical stacks, the right kind of solutions is really aiming to improve that productivity, the efficiencies, and elevate the human part to play a better role in insights, decision makings, and so on and so forth. And that pursuit will continue, will forever continues, and you will see it gets more sophisticated from a technology perspective, but from solutioning, from user perspective, it will get simpler and simpler because it has to be born intuitively. It has to be not going through a huge change cycle. Gone were the days where organization needs to undertake a huge risk in implementing all this where they do not know whether the outcome will be assured. More solution stacks, whether it is organization process or the engines or technology, is going to focus a lot on plug and play and intuitive approach that organization can just jump straight in that. With one very big assumption, the data is there and the data is of high quality. I think that's something of basic premise that has to be there no matter what. So given that, whether you're talking about AI or future AI, or even down the road where people start to talk about high compute environment involving, even in the case of quantum computing, which is probably decades away, it is just about another way of packing the human with productivity. And I think if anybody were to get their hands dirty with all sorts of AIs today, you will suddenly find that you would enjoy either a human on steroid or human being empowered with concurrent capability to do a lot of things without a fleet of people and waiting for the outcome, and that outcome is of differentiated qualities. With AI, it really helps it's a productivity companion, I will call it, that people could utilize. So if we wrap our heads around that, from a CFO or even the leaders of finance perspective, a future world will demand a few key traits, right? Number one, it has to be digitally savvy. One, whether you are a CFO or you are a finance member in the community, you cannot be shy from being technologically competent. It doesn't mean that you have to do coding, programming, and all that, but you must be able to speak the kind of language that you would be able to utilize all the tools, the simple tools who make simpler and simpler every day to, how to say, jumpstart or packed with a lot of muscles and punches for you to get going. And get going doesn't mean just you can do more with the same, but you would be able to unlock a lot of learning in multifaceted sphere for you to progress. So what it means to the organizations, they can expect from any individual that they hire with such ability to be able to do more, to be able to learn more, to be able to learn more agile and faster. That translates into very high ROI individually. That's number one. Number two, with all this ability, the human side of things shouldn't become a slave of this tool, meaning you don't really use your brain and think through what you're using. You must be able to make the better use of it and sharpen the insights and support the decision making. That's where human experience, human grits, the guts really kicks in. We should always remember all the machines, the technologies, the AI, whatnot, how we call it, it is or it will always be created by human. Yes, there's a school of thoughts about the rise of supercomputing and super AI and super humanoid that will come. But I like to believe and still have the hope where human brains prevails all the time. And I do hope that at least in finance, that continues to still be the case. And with that, that's really coming to drive that progress, whether it's organizations, decision makings, or whether it's investment financing, finance operations, accounting, and that judgments to really not just blindly follow whatever technology output. I think that is no different than, let's say, in today's world, we have a bombastic ERP, and the accounting results was automatically churning out by the system. Good finance people would like to ask questions and prompt questions for what they are reading and seeing. A bad finance person will just stick it as it is, and the answer always become, I don't know, that's what the system generates. That is a very sad outcome if that's the case. So for anybody talking about finance transformations or the betterment of process and leap forward, one thing we all should resist is become the slave or become just only capable of giving convenient answers, aka that's what the system gives. So that's something that we must hold in mind. I think the last bit about the key traits is the learning. With all the ability unlocks and the transformations or the leeway that gives to us, how do we use the time? How do we make the best use of it? The best use is always reinvested into learning. And finance, just like any other discipline, cannot stop learning, not just on the functional part of it, but be curious, be progressive around what's happening in the world. In particularly, a different model of business has always been revitalizing and generated as we move along. Not too long ago, our economy doesn't have what we call today the ecosystems economy or the platform economics. In today's world, it is just everywhere. If we look at the most valuable companies, top 10 of it, more than half of it are platform economics or platform or network ecosystem type of company. How that exists, how that functions, what they run, what's the impact for finance, operations, to accounting, to investments and resource allocation. That is a continuous learning. And being a finance person, be able to use those time that was unlocked by the process organizations and technology is crucially important, because not only all of us have to be competent in today, we must be future relevant. And that's the only way to be future relevant. I think I will stop here. So that's the long and short about what I think the thinking frame of where I see in today and to the near-term future.
Thank you very much indeed, Honshu. I think you touched on some very, very pertinent topics, including the need for continuous learning, finance transformation, the role that people will continue to play in this transformation, and the increasing embedding of technology into all that we do. So I would like to develop on some of those themes. Let me just share my screen. And I've titled my topic today, Overcoming the Talent Challenge. and sustainable solutions, particularly for the telco industry. As you know, Honshu is a former CFO of a leading multinational telco, and today he heads the finance function for a unicorn in a very, very high-tech industry. So we are really honored to have him share the keynote. So the recent talent trends, and this is as per PwC, is that there is a shortage of talent is seen as a major threat to growth. So a lot of companies in the finance function, as well as in companies in general, are ranking talent as a major threat to growth. We have the great resignation, where a lot of the younger generation are finding other areas of interest and not necessarily in corporate world. Employees place less value on job security and prioritize remuneration and well-being. 38% of workers surveyed plan to quit as their expectations are not met. Finance professionals, above all others, valued hybrid working. So today, all of you will be familiar with the question, does this work involve hybrid? Is there the option of flexi working? 85% of workers surveyed highlighted a decline in well-being. So physical, mental health today is of paramount importance. And you as a employer would need to find solutions that work with top talent. Coursera highlighted worker burnout as a #1 reason for resignations. Right. Continuing on the talent challenge, 67% of financial institutions reported significant difficulty in filling specialized roles. Recruitment timelines are extending beyond 4 months. You have evolving skills, and Honshu touched a little bit upon this for finance business partnering, financial analysts with data analytics know-how, and CFOs with a digital edge. We have an aging workforce, regional disparities, higher attrition rates, and the increased costs of hiring and retaining top talent. Now, the CFO challenge, with all of this happening in the background as far as talent, there are increasing regulatory pressures, demand for greater returns, rising operational costs, a mismatch between technology and the skills of the current talent pool. Honshu touched on this very pertinent point, and growing cyber threats. So the CFO is really boxed in with the demanding market dynamics and the talent challenge on the other. So the CFO imperatives, and here are some of the CFO priorities as per Deloitte's 2024 Global CFO Signals Report. Digital transformation, that's a priority for CFOs today. The data governance and cybersecurity, how to ensure that you keep your organization secure in this age of growing cyber threats. ESG and sustainability reporting, strategic risk management, and with that, talent management. Today, we have 28% of finance divisions using AI in the planning process, and 44% say increasing the use of tech to reduce costs in the next 12 months. Right? So some of the key considerations that PwC had for the CFO in 2025, strategy and growth, finance transformation, the adoption of technology and the embedding of technology into what we do, sustainability and sustainability reporting, and maintaining trust with the board and with the public. So some of the buzzwords today in the CFO mind are predictive analytics and financial intelligence. In fact, I heard the president of SEMA Global saying that the CFO is now being called increasingly the chief future officer. It's no longer enough to drive with the looking at the rear window. You need to look ahead and be able to predict the future. Fearlessly drive strategic investment, navigate complex challenges. Today, you have a world of tariffs, financial regulations, political uncertainty, collaboration across the C-suite, and embracing new technology. So here's some research from the Hackett Group. On the left, you have a pyramid, which is more traditional, the more traditional finance division, where the bulk of the CFO time and the finance division time is spent on transactional services. and very little left over for the top of the pyramid on analytical services. Now you flip the pyramid over and you have a world-class finance division where the bulk of the time is left for analytical services. You have the mind space, the head space for being able to think, to strategize, to advise the business, and very little time is devoted on the more transactional area. So this is a world-class finance function. So the solutions, wherein lies the solutions to these challenges? It requires us to rethink our talent strategy. So customized employee value proposition and the need to communicate this to employees. In fact, my parent company, the John Keel's Group, is going through this exercise at this moment in re-evaluating our EVP, our employee value proposition. What is valued by the Gen Zs and increasingly the Gen Alphas will be in our employee base. Employee branding, focusing on purpose and flexibility. Gen Z is known as a purpose-driven generation that values flexibility. And how do we ensure that we provide them that sense of purpose? Invest in well-being. Budget for annual pay increases. And in fact, some companies are doing this even biannually. The need for out-of-the-box thinking, things like childcare and subsidies for that. Collaboration with universities to facilitate continuous learning and access to world-class talent. And also the need to continually upskill staff and widen your talent pool. So some of the strategies that we are adopting, for instance, we have a increased investment in our L&D division. We in fact call it the Infomate University. So there is a whole range of soft skills, technical skills, and cutting-edge technologies that is available to our entire team of 600. And that is something that Gen Zs really value, the opportunity to continually learn and upskill. Also, it's required to look at new talent pools. So we are looking actively at second cities and non-traditional talent pools. And we will all need to incorporate factors like this in rethinking our shared talent strategy. And beyond this, the role of strategic shared services and outsourcing. So here's a pyramid that you could potentially adopt where you have the bottom of the pyramid, your master maintenance, your accounts payable or your procure to pay, accounts receivable management, general ledger, reconciliations, fixed asset management, handled by a shared services or by an outsourced partner, where you are freed up from some of the more repetitive, rule-based transactional work, giving you time to focus on the higher end, including the controller roles, the approvals, as well as the finance strategy, finance business partnering, future-proofing your business, risk management. Those are the things that are of real value to the board and to the C-suite. So you could look at how strategic shared services or outsourcing could help you to achieve this, giving you time to focus on what's really important. So a little bit about Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is known as a hidden gem for outsourcing, uniquely positioned to offer highly skilled talent as per A.T. Kearney. And one of the areas that we are very strong in is the wealth of accounting talent. So the New York Times and Australian both carried articles on the abundance of talent. In fact, it's one of the highest pools of qualified accountants in the world. Sri Lanka is also home to is a trusted destination for global brands. HSBC has 3,000 people here. IFS has 40% of their global workforce right here in Sri Lanka, and they've been here for 25 years. The London Stock Exchange, so the technology that powers London, Boston, New York, built and supported in Sri Lanka. Cisco Labs celebrated their 10th year. I met their chief executive, and he was saying Sri Lanka has some of the best talent in the world that he's seen, and that is high praise. You've got Virtusa, HCL, WNS, and several other leading brand names that have chosen Sri Lanka for their back office. We have dedicated technology parks, which are comparable to some of the best in the world. and recognition by leading rating agencies. So Startup Genome ranked Sri Lanka among the top 5 global ecosystems for affordable talent. INSEAD ranked Sri Lanka first in South Asia on the Global Talent Competitiveness Index. And here are some comments from HSBC and from the London Stock Exchange. One of the sites where I see the most innovation and one of the most proactive. Working with this team in Sri Lanka, they were one of the most receptive teams anywhere in the world. And finally, to wrap up, I'll just take 5 minutes to cover a little bit of my company, Infomate. We're proud to host this webinar, and I'll tell you a little of what we do and what we are passionate about. This is our 20th anniversary, and we recently, over the last 2 weeks, became the first Sri Lankan BPM to be profiled in the Everest Group Peak Matrix. So you have the big players, TCS, Deloitte, Infosys, Wipro, WNS, Accenture, Genpact, and you have Infomate, the first Sri Lankan company to make this list. This is our 20th anniversary, as I said, a team of 600, the first shared services in Sri Lanka, and we work with leading brand names globally, including Fortune 500s. We are a socially responsible company and ISO 27001 certified for world-class information security practices. The areas that we help businesses are in finance and accounting. We work on a variety of platforms, SAP, Oracle, Sage, MYOB, many others. So procure to pay, order to cash, fixed asset management, record to report, and also KYCs and increasingly the analytical and the higher end services. Beyond finance and accounting, we also help companies with shipping documentation, sales admin support, data entry, image annotation, customer help desk, call centers, lead generation. So it's a range of back office services that we also help our customers with. We have a global client base spanning North America to Australia, Europe, the Middle East. And I'll share 2 case studies. This is from Australia, and this is Australia's oldest company. They work in the agricultural space, premium beef, and they own 1% of the landmass of Australia. And the challenge given to us is their managing director said, I would like my finance division to be world-class in a year's time. So we sent a team to Brisbane. We baselined their finance and accounting processes where they were. And once we transitioned the work back, we had a series of interventions, including system improvements, ERP improvements, supply education, introducing best practices like no PO, no payment, documenting processes. And after 1 year, we were able to meet or exceed some of the world-class benchmarks. So James, the shared services manager, says we have made gains across the board in the finance function, including productivity, accuracy, and processing times. From the UK, this is a financial services company owned by the Tavistock Group. And we have a team of nearly 20 now working with them. We've been working with them for 7 years. I'm impressed with the team's performance and attitudes. There has been continued support and service levels have remained high. And finally, from Unilever, we appreciate the hard work and commitment of the entire Infomate team. We feel that our finance has an extended family at Infomate. So we're very proud of these collaborations and the long-term relationship that we've built. So I hope that you will take back some thoughts on overcoming the talent challenge and also potential solutions. So we have time for Q&A. Please do share your questions. And look forward to an engaging discussion. So you can direct your questions to Honshu or to myself. Sasanka, maybe you could start it off.
Sure. Thank you, Jehan, and for that insightful presentation. And thank you so much, Honshu, for sharing your valuable perspectives during the discussion. So we do have few questions in the line. So the first one, I would like to present it to Honshu. So Honshu, the first question would be, how are telcos balancing automation and the human element in their back office functions?
Thanks for the question. So I touched a bit on that just now in my keynote. the keyword is not balancing. And I don't think that should be the focus. Why? If we can fully capitalize the power of machines, why not? Why would we want human to meddle around somewhere in between and, make the process not optimal if the optimization's answer lies on full machine operated? So be it, right? The question is really about where humans comes in to add value. I mean, a simple notion. If you help nothing, you get out of the way. And we humans should have the bigger heart and still remember we are in the control to step away and make the machine who is doing that the best. So in my world, I don't see the balancing comes into play. Whatever that needs to be fully automated, we should automate. And just as a reference, so when I was in Dialogue, we have a big team. I think through the partnership with Infomate, we optimize quite a fair bit in terms of that setup. And we utilize the strengths of our partnership with Infomate in utilizing technologies. So there are concurrent transformations that both on technologies and reorg that will need to happen. It is not that straightforward, and it is also quite a painful journey, especially on the human change and change resistance kind of management side. But fast forward the clock, I'm now in a startup environment. So we are a 1.55 billion valuation unicorn manufacturing base. And we grow from since founded 4 years back all the way until today. And we had raised more than $500 million funding throughout the process. We are in high volume manufacturing. We are entering into Italy. The total headcount of my finance team today is 7. So why are we here? So I have the liberty on really starting on a clean state. And then that organizations was not really like that of Dialogue where we need to work to a different organization. So you need to reorg. Here we starting to piece up. So when we start to piece up, it's always start from a function of 1, right? So the function of 1 means you have to ask whether you are 1 too many or 1 too little. So when you think through that, how do you optimize, how do you really scale based on the strengths of both technology strengths, automations, and human? Then we need to be very selective where human input matters the most. And that's how you get it done. So we never start the equation with, oh, there's a human there. Let's see what technologies to bring in. Then we see how to do that mix. It never been like that. It has to be digitally native and start from there and say what else that the machine can't do and how can it do it? How can we make it do? Are there solutions? Are there partners can help us along that? Where it is fully been done, then where human comes in to help the decision making to be sharpened, to be more optimized, where insights carries the further value, that's where the human comes in.
Thank you so much for the clarification, Honshu. And on the second question, I would like to direct it towards Jehan. So Jehan, the question that we got through the chat is, what are the biggest operational bottlenecks telcos face today in finance and customer operations?
So it's a very fast-paced industry with a lot of technological advancements and changes happening rapidly. It's a high fixed asset industry requiring upgrades and imports, and there are a lot of challenges, regulatory challenges that they need to comply with. It's a very competitive industry as well, right? So it's a very demanding industry for the CFO and for the finance team, and they need their full focus to be able to prioritize all of these demands that are coming. There are regulatory demands, there are environmental reporting, there is a lot of reporting required, there is documentation required, and a lot of these are listed companies. So the bottlenecks that could be are very mundane issues that come up, like audit queries or bank reconciliations or supplier payments. Now that really takes away from the focus of the core role of your finance people who have so much on their plate and who should be advising the business and handling some of these strategic aspects. So when these little annoyances come, you have a supplier who is demanding payment, or you have a reconciliation that is not done, or you have an audit query, that really takes out a lot of your valuable time. Right. So I think those are some of the operational bottlenecks that plague CFOs and finance people in this very high-paced, high-tech, demanding industry, which is what the telco industry is.
Thank you, Jehan. Thank you so much for the explanation. And I think two more questions are in the line. So the next question I would like to direct it towards Hongshu. So Hongshu, the next question would be like, what are the main challenges in attracting and retaining top talent in telco industry?
I think regardless of which industries, I think Jehan just now in his outline also put it out. There is a global challenge across the board about talent attractions and talent retentions. It's a talent war out there. Why that is the case? We have stronger and stronger talent that's being produced across the world every year. The quality of education, schools, materials, the approach to train, and all since decades back, moving from analog to digital, moving from difficulties in information exchange to today, information is free everywhere and accessible. And you may notice that all this information knowledge and learnable skills are widely and widely available through different platforms, and it's highly accessible. We notice that such skill sets is being pushing down into younger and younger generations. What we are expecting is younger generations have learned a lot more during their earlier years than we are during our time and era. So the quality curves is continue to grow, and we should see that and we should celebrate that. Then the question is really about how does the organizations also go and grow with that same type of quality curve in attracting and retaining the right talent. You imagine it's not so hard to understand when you have very high quality talents that's coming up and it's getting younger and getting more exposed across globally and across discipline, multi-discipline. And yet the organization, if it remains to be, say, few decades old or just like how 100 years ago is, it just doesn't work. Nobody like to stay or even join or considering joining that type of environment. That's why you can see also there are younger and younger entrepreneurs or young generations like to contribute to the society and economy in their own way because of their novel ideas, their impact thinking, and so on and so forth, which doesn't exist during our many decades back. So just a case in point, many years ago, or at least in my days, right, when I go into universities or study and whatever, we go into choice of a catalog of certain degree of A, degree of B, and it's very much predefined. And then you go through a set curriculum of ABC, then you collect your credits. A couple of years, then you get a cert. If you go back to universities today, the universities has evolved in such that they prioritize what they call multidisciplinary certificates or degree. And in today's most advanced universities, they allow students to customize or craft their own disciplines and choice. And together with the deans and the school, they craft what will be the degree look like. Of course, there are certain, influences of what are the basics that you can do. There's not like you can just pretty much do whatever that you like. But to a very large extent, the advent of customizable creations of multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary schools is a reflection of how fast the world is changing and the knowledge space is required to cope. So then, therefore, the challenge to attract and retain talent is really for organization to think about how does that environment turns to one that allows the talent to stretch and utilize their broader space to contribute. And it cannot be whilst we teach our younger kids to be robust, versatile, agile, and so on and so forth. When it comes to organization, we box them out and say, just do this. Right? You are in this box and that box, and that wouldn't work. Yeah. So my take on that about talent is grow with the talent, and you don't need to look too far. Be very observant about what the market has developed, utilize that, bring it in. That, to me, of course, undoubtedly, that's a huge organizational changes. It's not the easiest things to do. I think it's not a choice about whether you do it or not. It's a choice whether if you want to survive and become still relevant down the future. Because very fast, those talents will join the organization which offer that kind of setting versus not.
Thanks, Anshu. That explains. Thanks a lot for the explanation. So I think Jehan and Anshu, like we would be able to go for another one question. So I would like to get this question on to towards Jehan. So Jehan, how do you see the role of CFO in telco back office operations evolving over the next, I would say, 5 to 6 years?
So I think Honshu will be able to, having had that role, say a lot more on that particular topic. But let me just share my thoughts. As I said, it's a very, very fast-paced, very dynamic, very challenging industry. And the CFO is the primary advisor to the board and the CEO. So someone who needs to be able to map out what the future is, give them guidance on the right investments, and the risk management aspects. And scenario planning is going to be very, very important because there are so many different combinations in terms of pricing, in terms of technology adoption. Sri Lanka is at the moment rolling out 5G, so there are very fast-paced changes happening globally in the space. The other aspect is the regulatory environment, right? How do you ensure that you keep on top of that, that you meet all of the statutory and the regulatory requirements? So it is very challenging at now. It's probably going to become even more challenging in the years ahead. So the CFO needs a strong team, and I think they need to have a strong ERP system, and the data and the intelligence that comes from it needs to be on point in terms of having access to real-time information. Predictive analysis is going to be key, right? So having a strong system, a strong team, and strong futuristic data analytic system will be vital for the CFO of the future in the telco space. But Honshu, please do add to this because you've been there, you've done it.
I think not much from what you have covered, Jehan. I think, yeah, it's around that area that it's spoken about.
Thank you. Any last questions, anyone? There is one question I can see in the chat, and let me try and answer that. It's about how do you manage the cutover from the existing structure to this model in terms of the people factor. I think the question is related to a shared services model or adopting an outsourcing model. So let me try to answer that, and then Honshu can add on to that. So there are a couple of experiences that I've had. One is from the own example in the John Kids group. So clear communication is very, very important. And having the buy-in and having the alignment of all of the senior leadership is the first step. Thereafter, once you have that clear communication, in the case of John Keels, there was a very clear message saying that there will be this project coming, the shared services model is coming. But this is the plan as far so that there was openness and there was clarity. And also wherever there were doubts, they were handled one-on-one sensitively. Also been in part of projects in different parts of the world. Again, good planning, clear communication, and having that, giving staff the confidence about what lies ahead. Sometimes it may not be the message that everyone wants to hear. But again, I find that if it is planned well and if it is done with fairness and integrity and maintaining trust in the process, people are very, very understanding and supportive because this is a business reality. Honshu?
Well, I think it's more of, I would say there's no cookie cutter approach. The organizations needs to be very clear what is the point B, or maybe it's not just about point B, it is point C and onwards, and there are many points. The organizations also need to be very honest about, in my personal experience and view, this is a continuous journey. Because one of the biggest mental block for the organizations and the people is always about, once we've done this, it is done and no more. That is the biggest downfall of any organization thinking, because that inherently assume there is a final state of organization structure, business, or even people that's within. And we know the only constant in this world is change. And if the thinking model about that is you get to one spot and then you stay there for eternity, then I think that's the recipe for disaster. So having a very clear communication, Jehan mentioned about it, setting the expectation that everyone in the organization is expected to grow together with the organization as it moves, and the organization will take different form and shape as it fits to survive and excel as the macro moves along. No one should expect an organization to commit and promise that, oh, after you've done this or today it's like that, it will be happily ever after. I mean, if that's what a person asks, I think you need to rethink about what exactly you're asking, because you are asking for an end, not the beginning, right? So if we were to be very clear about going together on a journey, the remaining questions, or the only questions that matters, is how does organization equip me to continuously learn and grow out of what I am? And that's the only thing that matters. So organization also must address that as part of that change, whether that change is to insource, outsource, have a partner and all that. And when we look for partner, I believe Jehan has recalled. How do we grow together? How our both organizations learn together and grow together where it is relevant and face tomorrow challenges. We are not just trying to solve today's problem. We are cleaning up what is today's gap, equip ourselves better to face tomorrow's challenge. And that repeats itself. I think that's what I want.
Thanks a lot.
Fantastic.
For the
Thank you.
explanation, Hongshu. I think with that questions, the session is coming to an end. Jehan, Hongshu, would you like to add any final thoughts to the presentation to our listeners here?
So I would like to thank all our participants and our keynote speaker, Honshu, a very eminent person and a good friend. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your thoughts. Deeply grateful and learned a lot. As always, I learned a lot, and I'm sure our audience did as well. And my parting message to our audience is both online and those who are hearing the recorded version. It's an exciting time. It requires us to learn, equip ourselves with new skills, and to look ahead. It's an exciting future, and we should embrace it and not see it as a risk or as a challenge. We should embrace the future. Those who learn new skills and adapt will thrive. Anshu, any parting thoughts?
Thanks a lot.
Well,
Thanks
I
a lot.
think I will say do not stop being curious and do not afraid or choose to avoid of all the changes is coming forward. I know it's daunting, it's actually quite scary because the world is moving in such a pace and into space that a lot of us will feel very intimidated. But I think just like any problem solving, no matter how complex it is, break down into bite size, and everybody has his or her own bite size, and just don't stop munching. Keep going at it, keep munching on it. You'll get there. This is not about competitions to be, better than everybody else and all that. You are on your journey to be better than yours today, right? So long that you know that the tomorrow of you is always better than the today's of you, then you are on the right track and a good track. And you should be proud of yourself.
Thanks a lot, Hongshu. And thank you, Jehan, for that insightful presentation. And thanks a lot, Hongshu, for your valuable perspective. A big thank you to our participants who joined and commented. And we truly appreciate your time and interest in this conversation in reimagining back office excellence for telcos. So we hope today's session offered practical insights and ideas you can take back to your organization. On behalf of Infomate and Silicon Box, thank you once again for being a part of the session. Until next time, take care and have a wonderful day ahead.
Bye-bye.
Bye.